Hi everyone, I'm Eileen with Reycraft Books, and this is Magic Mirror Night. I hope you guys got a chance to enjoy chapters 1 and 2 from the Tomb of Time last night. If not, don't worry about it. We'll be posting it on our Reycraft Books YouTube channel. So for now, let's continue the Tomb of Time with Marco and Miranda. I love time travel. Chapter 3, Puzzles and Polyester. The children reached the door to find their neighbor, Mrs. Sun, closing it behind her. She cooed over the youngsters and laid down several shopping bags at their feet. "I've bought you a lovely surprise," she said. "You are going to love it." Hello, Mrs. Sun," said Mira, flashing a fake smile. "How did you get in? I mean, how come you have a key?" "Oh, your parents gave it to me the last time I saw them. Didn't they tell you? You know how they're always working, and your poor grandfather isn't getting any younger, you know. Anyway, the key is just so I can pop in once in a while and see how you are. Did I scare you, darlings? I'm so sorry. I should have called first, but I was so excited about giving you your new clothes. I wasn't thinking straight. Sorry. "What new clothes?" said Mira. Mrs. Sun fancied herself as a fashion designer and had opened a boutique in town. Almost everything in the shop was designed by her, and it was awful. Had she decided to give them some of the clothes from the shop? Mira hoped not. The large lady opened up one of the shopping bags and pulled out a luridly colored bundle of polyester. "These clothes. Now this is for you, darling Mira. It's perfect, don't you think?" Mira swallowed. Uh, yeah, perfect. Did you design this yourself, Mrs. Sun?" "You can tell. Of course you can. A pretty young lady like you has an eye for what's happening in fashion." She bent over and felt around in the bags again. "Now, where is it? I have something for you too, young man." "Ah, here it is." She pulled out a shirt in some sort of polyester print fabric. It was purple and orange. "You," said Marco. "You like it? I knew you would," gushed Mrs. Sun. "Now I want the two of you to try them on." "Right now?" Mira asked. Mrs. Sun nodded. "Of course. No time like the present." But Mira racked her brain to think of an escape plan. "We have to go for a school activity right away. It's youth club night. We have to leave in 5 minutes. So it's really kind of you to come, and we really love the gifts, but we kind of have to rush out almost immediately. In fact, we're already late." Mrs. Sun's beaming smile just got wider. "That's perfect. You can launch the garments tonight. I want you to wear them to the youth club. I'm quite sure they'll get a lot of attention, and then you can tell your friends where they can buy their own." She pointed to the doors that led off the hall. "Now that can be the girls' changing room, and that can be the boys' changing room. Chop, chop. I want to see you in the clothes, and then I can drive you to the youth club. My driver is outside." Unable to escape, the two children picked up their new outfits and parted company to put them on. A few minutes later, they entered the kitchen where Mrs. Sun had gone to get herself a glass of water. The polyester clothes were revolting. "Beautiful," she crooned. "You will be the belles of the ball, so to speak. Now, I'll just go to the bathroom and then I'll take you to school." As she disappeared, Marco turned to his sister. "What do we do now? I'm not going out in these. And there's nothing at school tonight, is there? You just made that up." "I've got a plan," she said. "I'll write her a note saying that we decided to walk because the youth club is meeting at a venue somewhere nearby. Then we can just go and hide somewhere, pretend we're already out of the house." She scrawled a note as fast as she could while Marco listened carefully for the sound of approaching footsteps. Luckily, Mrs. Sun was gone for several minutes. Mira placed the note on the woman's bag, and then the two of them raced off to hide under Grandpa's desk. They waited in silence until they heard Mrs. Sun leave. Then they returned to their mission. Mira's eyes widened as she sat in her grandfather's chair and reread the letter. "Yippee," she said, turning to her brother. "We're going to America, the town where Superman lives." "Superman? Show me," said Marco, leaning over and scanning the letter. "Where?" She pointed to a particular line near the end of the handwritten text. "There." 210, he read. "The necropolis." He glared at her and grabbed the letter. "This doesn't say anything about Superman." "Don't you know anything?" she sneered. "Necropolis is where Superman lives." He was silent for a moment, thinking. "I don't think so," he said eventually, his voice quiet. "It's something like that, but not quite." He tried to recall the name of the town, but it wouldn't come. "I'll tell you what it is later," he said. Grandpa's letter was very simple. It read as follows. "Dear Mira and Marco, thank you so much for arranging for your friend to deliver the map to me last month. It proved vital. I owe you much. Now the next stage of the mission is going to be difficult for both of you and for me. I want you to head to 210, the necropolis. There's something in there I need you to get. It's a cubic puzzle, which you need to retrieve. On a separate sheet of paper, I am giving you a puzzle poem. If you can work it out, it will help you learn a lot. But one morning, in the place where you are going, there are lots of highly dangerous people. Please be very careful. And you will bring the magic mirror with you, of course, and you will take it back safely. Your loving, Yi." He signed off with the affectionate Chinese nickname for grandfather. The family was culturally mixed, with elements from both the East and the West. "Okay," said Mira, "it looks like to me the first thing we need to do is solve the puzzle of the poem." She spread it out on the table and stared at it. A second look should help, she thought. So the title again was Fast Ag, Changeable, 11. The poem said, "This beauty treatment makes you ugly. The medicine will cause your death. Think of a metal firm as water. The mirror shows your final breath." After a full minute of staring at it, the space between her eyebrows crinkled in annoyance. "I don't know what it means, but it sounds really bad, whatever it means. Like it's talking about poison or something. It's something really evil, right? You think it's medicine, but it kills you? You think it's good for your looks, but it makes you ugly? What could it be? I don't know, but metal, which flows like water, that must be a reference to molten metal. You know how when you heat up metal and it goes white hot, it becomes like a liquid? I guess. Maybe that's what it means, molten metal. Do people put metal on their faces as a beauty treatment? If they did, what would happen? Wouldn't it burn their faces?" Her brother nodded. "It would, but I've never heard of anyone doing that. We're going to have to do more research." Mira sat at the computer and searched on Wikipedia and Google. She found lots of information about molten metal, but nothing that seemed to match the clues in the poem. Then she turned to her grandfather's physical encyclopedia and looked up beauty products in it. Marco took a different route. He looked at his grandfather's old books on history, looking for cultural clues. After an hour had passed, they were getting frustrated. They had formed lots of vague ideas about what the poem could mean, but nothing that actually clicked. Nothing that looked like a solid clue that would unlock the meaning of the poem. Most baffling, they decided, was the title, Fast Ag, Changeable. 11, which was in parentheses. What could that mean? When they looked it up on the internet, they came up with lots of German companies. After another 5 minutes of research, they learned that AG, ag, was a German word meaning company, an abbreviation for, Aktiengesellschaft. Mira blinked at the long, ugly word. I don't even want to try saying that, she said. Do you think it means that Yi is in Germany? Marco made a face. I don't think so, he said. Another 10 minutes of study proved equally fruitless. They decided to break for dinner. The housekeeper, Gwendy, had laid out some dishes for them, making sure they got a nutritious range of foods. When their parents had first disappeared, the children had eaten huge amounts of ice cream and sugary foods, but they soon found themselves missing savory foods and even vegetables. Then they had gradually returned to good dietary habits, eating a mixture of sweet items and savory ones, although they still often ate dessert before the main course. There was a good reason for this. If you ate dessert first and then your main course, and you were still hungry, you could have a second dessert. Chapter 4, The Silver Moon. At 7:30 that night, the doorbell rang. You're closer, said Mira. I got it earlier, said Marco. Besides, I'm tired. So am I. It sounds like a boy, Marco winked. Probably for you. What do you mean by that? It smells like a boy. Mira frowned. That's not what I meant. But Marco continued. Boys smell different from girls. It's a scientific fact. Look it up. Mira looked skeptical, but then her curiosity got the better of her and she scampered out of the room and up the stairs to the remote viewer. She saw the top of an adult's head. She recognized Mr. Aldred, husband of her favorite teacher. A minute later, she opened the door. Hello, Mr. Aldred. Good evening, Mira. Anya was going to come tonight, but she got called away to visit her grandma. So she asked me to deliver this to you and tell you that she wants to have dinner with you guys tomorrow. Talk about some things. He handed her a box of donuts. Wow, donuts, thanks. Do you want one? She asked, pulling off the lid and offering him one of the 6 sparkling sugar-coated donuts. No thanks, said the teacher. Oh, go on then. I might just have one. He pulled out one of the packets and ate it in 2 bites. I shouldn't, he said, speaking with his mouth full. Anyway, she'll be over at 7-ish tomorrow night. He turned to go. But Marco came charging out of his room. Mr. Aldred, can I ask you something? What does this mean? He handed him a piece of paper. It's a poem, said Mr. Aldred. Bit of an odd one, it seems to me. The title. What does the title mean? Fast Ag Changeable 11. After a few seconds, he smiled. That's easy, he said. It's a cryptic crossword type clue. The answer is one word, 11 letters long, suggested by the words given. Give me another word for fast. He looked at Marco. Speedy? Quick? Said Mira. The teacher smiled at her. Write them down. He pulled a pen out of his jacket pocket and wrote the words speedy and quick on top of the donut box. Next, what does ag stand for? It means company in German. We looked it up, said Mira. True, but what else could it mean? There was silence. What could it stand for? He continued. Agriculture? Suggested the girl. True, said the teacher. It could stand for agriculture, but anything else? What do two-letter abbreviations often stand for? To chemists and scientists? The periodic table? Said Mira. She looked at her brother. You're good at that sort of thing. Is AG an element? Marco nodded. It is, but I can't remember which one. No more clues, said Mr. Aldred. The rest is up to you. The two children chewed their bottom lips as they thought. Marco decided to make a guess. I have a feeling it's gold or silver. Is that right? Mr. Aldred wrote down the words gold and silver on the donut box. Now there were 4 words on the box: speedy, quick, gold, and silver. The two children stared at the 4 words, trying to make sense of them. Quicksilver, Mira said slowly. That's a word, isn't it? I don't know what it means, though. Is it 11 letters? It is, said the brother, counting on his fingers. Okay, that's all I'm giving you. The rest you can work out yourself. The two children spent the next hour in front of the computer, mostly looking at Wikipedia pages. Within minutes of the teacher's departure, they had learned that quicksilver was an old word for the chemical known as mercury, the liquidy silver stuff that you see in old-fashioned thermometers. From then on, it was easy to work out the rest of the title from references in dictionaries and Wikipedia. They learned that there was a type of personality called mercurial, which meant changeable, and referred to people who often changed their minds and acted in an unpredictable way. When they called up images of Mercury and saw the shining silver liquid, it was clear what line 3 of the poem was referring to. Metal flowing like water. They also learned that mercury was the only metal that was a liquid at normal room temperature. Other metals had to be heated to become liquid. The rest of the details of the poem gradually became clear as they read books from Grandpa's shelf and files on the internet. Ancient Romans and Egyptians thought mercury was good for the skin. Sometimes they used it in cosmetics. In fact, it was very bad for the skin. Beauty treatments that make you ugly and even kill you. They learned that the Mayan people used bowls of mercury as mirrors, not realizing that the stuff could kill them, make them take their final breath. And then they found the strangest story of all. Mira found it first. It was the tale of an emperor who believed that mercury would help him live forever. He wanted rivers of mercury around his grave to bring him back to life. He ordered his men to build an underground city of the dead for him to live in. What was his name? Marco asked. I don't know how to pronounce it. His sister replied, Qi Wang? Something like that? Marco grabbed one of Grandpa's old books and started flicking through the pages at high speed. I read about him. I know the story. We did it at school. He was a bad man, really, really bad. Wait, let me find it. It took him a minute, but he found the story in an old book of Chinese history. He was the first emperor of China, and he spent 3 days with Anki Shang, a 1,000-year-old magician who planned to live forever. The emperor became convinced that he too could live forever, and he looked for ways to make himself immortal. What's that? Marco suddenly said, looking up. What's what? His sister asked, but by the time she had heard it too, someone had entered through the front door. Mrs. Sun is back, whispered Marco. She must have seen the lights on. Footsteps approached the library door. Mira opened the wooden box on Grandpa's desk and pulled out the magic mirror, a disc of metal with a slightly greenish hue. We need to escape, she said, biting her lip. She found the mirror enchanting, but also scary. She had definitely seen a green-eyed face that was not her own in its cloudy surface. Marco grabbed his red school backpack, which would hold the mirror when they weren't using it, and which acted as a bit of a security blanket for him. The moon had started to shine brightly. Mira, who was much taller than her brother, held the disc up to the small round window. The room was bathed in light. Where are we going? Marco asked. To number 210, the necropolis, his sister said, wherever that is. The light grew unnaturally bright until they could see nothing. They closed their eyes against the glare. Then suddenly, everything went black. The floor seemed to fall out from under them, and they were falling, falling and floating. Thank you for joining us for chapters 3 and 4 of The Tomb of Time. And we hope you'll come back tomorrow night for more. Take care and see you soon.